It's happening. I mean, Corey Cove, the look on your face right now.
Yeah, the 9-year-old in me is freaking out.
He's smiling.
It's so cool. You know, a handful of months ago, right, we were joking about a weekend at Bernie's at the Saints game at CHS Field. We're like, that'd be awesome if they did this and they did that. Well, the Saints are always listening, and they like good ideas, and they, behind the scenes, made some calls, and they made it happen. And Wednesdays at Bernie's is today at CHS Field. We're all going to be there. And they got the man, the myth, the legend himself, Terry Kiser, wow. Bernie Lomax himself.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
This is a trip, man. This is so cool.
It's so nice to be here. And I think we're going to have a fun day. We've been talking about it, what we're going to do, and ideas and stuff like this, kind of pass them around to you. But it's a pleasure, gentlemen. It's a pleasure being here.
Well,
yes, sir.
We can pass around ideas. Do we get to pass you around? CHS? Do we get to throw you over each shoulder and just walk you around? What are we doing with you?
That would cost you a lot of money.
Yeah. Name your price, sir. Name your price.
I might be willing to pay.
Free cash, homie.
Let's just start there, by the way. Does it trip you out that that's 35 years ago?
It's amazing.
It trips me out. Time's a bitch, right? 35 years ago.
Amazing. Because I remember when it first came down and stuff like this, and they asked me to come in and interview with a thing like this, and I'd just been in a minor motorcycle accident, so I had my head shaved a little bit up in the side, and I said, I can't audition for this. And they said, well, we think you're right for this. I can't. I got a bald spot in my head. I can't do the thing. Oh, okay, we're going to. So they started looking elsewhere, and my hair started growing back, and I was around the house, and I didn't shave and things like that. And finally, a month later, they said, we can't find anybody. Can you come in and stuff like this? And I'm looking in the mirror. I said, oh, okay, my hair is starting to come back. All right, so I started shaving and stuff. And I never had a mustache in my life. So I hadn't shaved for a month, if we can. And I started shaving stuff like this. And I left the mustache on. To this day, I believe the mustache got the job for me. and I don't know the reason why. And because the two boys were, Andrew and John, were cast already, and I saw myself in between, and I don't know, the mustache kind of stood out for this guy that's in between. And so I went in, and there was a couple of lines. I said, I said, what do you want? I said, let me just do something. And so I put something down, and I said, do you have any idea? No, that's perfect. And by this time, the director and producer were in New York City trying to cast this part. And they sent the film out to, the tape out to New York from L.A. And they said, he's the guy. That's it. And I said, oh, good. And they said, well, we'll meet him when he gets back. Well, I didn't want to meet anybody because I thought once they saw me, well, no, he's not quite there. So I said, no, I'll see him on the set. But that's how the Bernie thing came about. And yes, that long ago and stuff like this.
35 years.
And it's more alive today than it was back then, which is amazing to me. Amazing.
Yeah, would you have ever guessed that people would have cared about a movie with a dead guy for 80% of the film 35 years later, right? And my guess is your life, because you were a working actor for a long time before that. Yeah. My guess is your life is pre-Bernie and post-Bernie, right? You've been recognized for 35 years, probably everywhere you go. Like, that's freaking Bernie.
It's amazing. So cool. And it's international, too. I get popped in, France and stuff like this. It's Bernie is an international guy.
It's so cool.
And an incredible character that came out of left field. And we were talking about, where did the glasses come from and stuff like this. And I said, we were just working on the set, and this producer who was French had these glasses. I said, give me those glasses and stuff like this. And so that's how the thing started. It gave me a foundation or something, whatever we do as creative artists. It gave me something to start with. And that's how the thing came about. And we started rehearsing the thing, and we started in New York like a play. We started rehearsing it. Okay, we'll try this and tie shoes together, and we'll tie that. Okay, now how would you walk? Would you thing? And I thought it was a one-trick pony at first, and we started thinking, and people started laughing. we were doing things like this, and all of a sudden, I said, this could be funny. And that's how the thing evolved from a one-trick pony to a classic, as you said, has lasted throughout years.
What do you recall about the actual filming of the movie, the process, and how it was for you? For as much acting as you actually did, then having a role like that, and with the cast and crew around you and everybody having so much fun. I mean, what was that like for you?
It was, first of all, John and Andrew, we started working, and what we decided to do is that we wanted to keep this thing fresh. How do you keep it fresh and not sticky and real? And so we started working on this thing, and we decided, well, let's try to break up each other. And so we tried, we do a thing like this, and I would freeze something like this, and all of a sudden we'd start laughing, or I'd break them up, or they would break me up, and things like this. But what that did, it kept everything so fresh and new and not shtick, because all that comedy came out of situations. You know, they were always something that was real. And that's the way the thing started working. And as I said, as we started getting into more filming and stuff like this, I think one of the biggest things, the first time I saw Bernie on, we'd have, the next day we'd have dailies. And the audience, what that is you see what you shot the day before. And the first time that I saw dailies of Bernie dead, he was dead. And I said, he's dead. He's dead. He's not funny dead. He's dead.
Okay,
and,
right, yeah.
And I said, what the hell? What? And so I went back to my room, and I was late at night and stuff, and well, how can I make this dead guy funny? How do you make a dead guy funny? And that's where the Bernie smirk came from.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And because I'm in front of the mirror. Look at it. I'd say, and I knew I had to hold it for 2 minutes, whatever it was. And so I'm in the mirror and stuff like this, and all of a sudden, and I could.
That's the best. He's doing it on camera.
Well, what happened was the next day. You do it in front of a crew, and these guys just want to go home to Martha and have a beer. The crew, these guys. And all of a sudden I heard, and I said, oh, I think we got it. And that's really a transition, the Bernie smirk,
Yeah.
Like this, he became, I said, now he's funny dead. He's not just dead. Yeah. And that was a big transition for the movie.
If you're not watching us on KFAN.com/watch right now, you should, because we just saw the Bernie smirk happen live at the KFAN studios. That's fantastic.
Yeah, there were little things in the movie, too, that and my guess is this is what you're talking about, trying to get McCarthy and Silverman to laugh, but as a 9-year-old watching that movie for the first time, I laughed so hard the way you waved when you were playing Monopoly, right? When he's basically using you as a marionette.
That's so silly.
And of course it's preposterous, right? A dead body would never be like you'd have rigor mortis. There's so many things that you have to suspend disbelief for this movie to work. But it's just, you have the smirk on, you got the glasses, and you're waving to people on the beach, just flailing around in the air. It's just freaking great.
It was wonderful. There's one thing that you'll remember in the movie where Andrew lifted up a fly swatter and hit a fly that was on me like that. And I said, no, that's not funny. It's two swats. You swat and then you swish it away. That's funny. and so we were so together, the three of us, of having fun. And as I said, nothing was planned, and it was all spontaneous and very creative. And I think that's what came across in the movie, is the spontaneity and saying, Jesus, how did they do that? How did they do that?
Also timed perfectly. We talk about it on the show all the time, but the 80s era, the charm is not necessarily in movies anymore. I think if somebody pitched this exact script now, it would get laughed out of the room and said, we can't make that movie. But there were movies nonstop in the 80s that were so preposterous, but they found that sweet spot. And that's what you're talking about, right? Is how do you find fun and heart in a movie where a guy's dead for 80% of the film? It's hard to make.
Yeah, that's very well put. It was. And as I said, we had a funny thing that I started getting hurt. In other words, I broke 3 ribs and I had a vertebrae jammed in my neck and stuff like this because the director was a maniac. Because what he was, Ted Kotcheff, God bless him, what he would do is we would set up something, And the first thing is say, did we get the shot? Yeah. Okay. Now, is the actor okay? Well, he's on the floor. Maybe we should see if and I was getting hurt, and I said, how can I stop this? And so I went up to him, and he said, okay, now you're going to be in the wagon, and your head's going to be bouncing on the thing. I said, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying to me. Could you show me? He said, what? I said, I don't understand. But if you show me what you need, I think I can get it for you. Well, that changed things around a little bit. All of a sudden, now he had to do it, and it got a little safer on the set because people got injured.
Wait, but that was actually your head on that wagon scene?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
Was it really?
I just always assumed that was some kind of a dummy or a double.
No.
Wow.
No. And
how do you not get 40 concussions?
Well, this is why I broke 3 ribs and had a vertebrae jammed in my neck and things like this until I started waking up and saying, wait a minute, I could die doing this movie. He's a dead bird. He's really going to be dead.
How'd you break your ribs?
Did that on the boat scene where the boat hits and Bernie pops up on the back of the boat. Yeah. Well, they had a rib on the back of that boat, and so when we hit that thing, I went back and I hit I didn't go up on the seat. I hit the back, unlike that, and for 4 days they had to carry me to the set to set me up and do the shots and stuff like this.
I thought hockey was dangerous.
It's like method acting. Yeah, they're dragging you to the set. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it got a little safer after we decided to straighten out the director a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting, though, because, again, Terry Kiser's our guest. Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's. Don't forget, Wednesdays at Bernie's happening today, 11:30 to 12:30, a meet and greet down at CHS Field. The game's at 1. Get your tickets at saintsbaseball.com. It's not too late to come down and say hi and take pictures and meet Bernie himself, Terry Kiser. I was reading that you joined the actor studio, worked with Lee Strasberg, and hearing what you did to make Bernie go from being a dead guy to being a funny dead guy, that's the kind of thing you need to learn how to do, right? I mean, that's... maybe somebody would say you went to Strasberg and now you're doing Weekend at Bernie's, but everything plays into it, doesn't it?
It does. And acting is acting. And obviously, one of the greatest thrills of my life was to be able to work with the guru of acting teachers, Lee Strasberg. This was something I will never forget all my life. What the man did. Never put down actors and stuff like this. It was always gentle with them and tried to find out where it was. And it was all based on real. And the actor studio obviously is known for Stella, in other words, there's heavy stuff like this. But no, comedy works just as well because what you're doing is something that's real. And you're not sticking it. And if you find that realness in your choices, it comes out. It comes out, real. A perfect example, we were talking about all of a sudden in the second movie, he gets up with the music and starts, dancing. And I said, I'm on the toilet. Now, how am I going to get up and start dancing? Because I wanted to make this real. I wanted to make it, sticky. And I said, well, music starts right here. right in your lower gut. You know what I mean? That's where music starts. And so I said, okay, well, if I get that. And so I started getting that, that bottom thing moving and stuff and start rocking and stuff. And it became real. And that's where that Bernie walk came from, which we're going to show, I think, our audience at the ballpark a little fun with the first pitch.
Sounds
We're going to talk about that.
So can you talk about when you got the phone call that they were making a sequel and you were going to be involved? Did you say, how the F is that even possible? I died in the first one.
No, I did not say that. I said, stick him up. That's right. This is going to cost you money. And it was a wonderful thing because I got a phone call Sunday and the producer, this Victor Dre, this Frenchman, said, Terry, come over to the house right now. I said, what? It's Sunday. I said, Terry, get over to the house right now. Please, get over here. I'm on my way. So I go over to his house, and Robert Klain, the writer, also came. So there were the three of us, this Victor producer and the writer and myself. And he brought out a bottle of champagne. He says, we got the money for the second movie.
Oh.
And I said, are you kidding me? He says, yes. He says, where do you want to do it? I said, I want it where it's very warm. True story. And that's how it came out that we did it at St. Croix, the beautiful island and stuff like this. But that's how it came about. We had no idea until I got that phone call on a Sunday and came over there and popped a bottle of champagne and said, we got the money for the second one. And it was quite a joy, quite fun to now create a new script off this character. And where as hell is the dead guy going to go? And they found out a way to do it.
Man, the Bernie
So
walk.
good.
I'm just watching that scene right now in the conga line. I don't know how you talked about cracking up the people on the set. I wouldn't have been. They'd have had to throw me off the set. I'd have been laughing too hard watching you do that. That's brilliant.
You know what? And we had a lot of that on the set. In other words, as we said, we had
Right.
the people were choking because we didn't know what we were doing. In other words, but I say that in an artistic way. We don't know what we were doing. Obviously, we had something that we were doing right, but what we were doing was creating real and not shtick. In other words, I think a lot of the comedies now, this shtick stuff. But Bernie was always based on situations, real situations. And I think that's where true comedy, where you're Charlie Chaplin, where Peter Sellers and pieces like this, is based on reality. And we go back to the Actors Studio. That's what this studio is about. And learning how to act is not acting. And that's what we try to create. And it seems like 45, 35 years later, we did it.
I'm watching you rise out of the bushes
so
again.
good.
I've watched it like 4
great.
times. I can't help it. It's the move of your head, everything about that's brilliant. And of course, everybody does the Bernie walk now. You see it at colleges. There's videos all over YouTube of people doing your walk all these years later.
We were talking about that, that it was funny that because this Bernie walk, and it had happened something like 12 years later after the movies were finished and stuff like this. All of a sudden, somebody calls up and said, Terry, you created a dance. And I said, what are you talking about? He says, everybody's doing the Bernie walk and stuff like this. And all the discos and stuff like this, everybody's, doing this Bernie walk thing like this. And I said, my golly, here this many years later, here we are creating a dance. And I said, I created a dance. I don't believe that. I said, isn't that fun? So it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed about other interviews that I've seen you do, and already in the first 20 minutes of this one, is when you have somebody find a role like Bernie, and it goes viral for 35 years and people love it, you have the opportunity to almost resent it, right? Like I'm an actor. I've done 1,000 other things. I'm not just Bernie, but it seems like you lean into it the other way and say, no, this is spectacular that people still care about it 35 years later. Super fun.
Absolutely. I mean, why shouldn't I? In other words, to have something iconic like that, I think we all in our life look for something like that's lasting. And this thing has lasted for all these years and stuff like this. And now it's even more popular than ever with the Biden thing. And I mean, it's national. All of a sudden, your picture on your T-shirt is now with Kamala Harris. And it's on in every place.
Well, it's a verb, right? People will say, let's just weekend at Bernie him.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's whether it's your buddy that's drunk or somebody that's older, that's just a verb now in the U.S. vernacular.
That's what happens.
It's kind of fun.
When the film was wrapped originally, the original one, did you know what you have? I mean, did the director go, we got it? I mean, because you can't predict how campy and how long-lasting it's going to be. But
as I said during the filming and stuff like that, we started getting an idea of saying, this could be funny. This could be funny. But you never know until you get that young audience in there. And I remember we had in Los Angeles, we went out of town in San Bernardino or someplace to have our first screening of the movie with a real audience. It's something else for you to say, oh, it's good, the thing. But let's get the young people in there and see what. And so we went there, and I'm sitting in the back and stuff like this, and the lights go down, and I sneak into the seat, and so we sit down like this, and it's a full house, these young kids, it's 10 o'clock at night, everybody's feeling good. And they started playing this thing, and people just started falling off the seats. and I turned to Victor, the producer, and I said, We got it.
That's great. That's so cool.
Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun?
It is fun. Again, today down at CHS Field. Get your tickets now. Come on down. And the T-shirts themselves, by the way. I mean,
Yeah, the Saints did a great job.
the posters,
as
the
always.
T-shirts, everything like that. They always do it the right way. So looking forward to that. We'll go to break. We'll come back in. We got to talk a little bit about. I read somewhere that you played football and in a little football in college as well. Is that true?
It sure is.
Wow. I wanna talk about that. Not just anywhere, by the way. Rosie, did you know he played major college football?
I did not know that.
You'll find out about that in a moment.
Wait to hear.
All right, more with Terry Kiser after this is the Power Trip Morning Show on The Fan.
Power Trip Morning Show. Today is the day. Wednesdays with Bernie down at CHS Field happens 11:30 to 12:30 today. They meet and greet and say hi to Terry Kiser himself as he'll be there. He's in studio with us right now. Then the game obviously happens at 1. Be throwing out the first pitch. All kinds of things going on, but super excited again to have Terry Kiser in studio with us. Bernie himself. Thank you for getting up early and coming on in. We appreciate it very, very much. I'll get his headphones on there and having him sign a couple of posters right now as well, so we can mark this wonderful day where we make Corey Cove's dream come true.
Yeah,
it's just unbelievable what's going on.
But here's the
with
other
Corey right
problem, though. Here's the other problem,
What's that?
Terry, is when we threw this out in the ether and then the Saints delivered and made it happen, now you're sitting here. After we knew you were going to be here, one of the problems was then we had a wish list. We're like, well, who else do we want to make the Saints do all the work and get them to the Twin Cities for us, right? We can just throw a name out. They do all the work. We do nothing. We profit from it. It's kind of a sweet deal for us.
That's a good deal.
They're great people. We have some surprises set for today at CHS Field, but you will be there. There's a meet and greet with us from 11:30 to 12:30, and then there's a handful of things we're going to do in and around the stadium, which is going to be super fun.
Are you a baseball fan, Mr. Kiser?
I am. I was, but I didn't know the record of, and I said, well, how are they doing? How are they doing? Not too good. Okay, well, but I mean, but they're exciting. I mean, this field is beautiful. The people are just joyous.
It's the best.
I think everybody's going to have fun today.
Yeah, it is a great atmosphere down there.
it's wonderful.
Atmosphere down there, you'll love it. It's a great field. They always just they do fun things like this. I love it, man. It's more than just a game down there. It's an entire thing for the family. So saintsbaseball.com. Come on down today. We'll be there. And I want to go back to what I said before we went to break. So I was reading. Obviously, we talked about you going to the actor studio and sitting under Mr. Strasburg. But before that, you played football at Kansas. Is that right?
It's so funny because I wasn't that good. I mean, in high school, in Nebraska, I became all-state. But the reason I did is because I was left halfback, and I led, I guess, the scoring of the year or something like that. But the reason is because the other halfback on our team at that time was a guy by the name of Pat Fisher. Pat Fisher played for the Washington Redskins for 15 years, and he was my size. I mean, he was small, but he created the bump and run, literally, in professional sports because he was so small. Then he started hitting these guys coming out, and that's where it was. But everybody knew Pat Fisher was this incredible athlete, and so they were all gearing up on him. And so all of a sudden you'd have a play and stuff, and everybody gets on him, and I'd say, I guess I could just walk over here and say, I guess I just scored a touchdown. I'll be done.
Wow.
And so that's kind of where it was. And then I went to Kansas on a dramatic and a football scholarship. But my sophomore year, I was a defensive halfback. I could run backwards faster than people could run forward. Mm-hmm. That was my really great strength.
But you were also an engineering.
I was.
I going to go into that.
I was an industrial engineer, civil and business engineering. That's what my degree was. And then I went. And then I went to my first job. Was Cornhusker Paving Company, and I did bids and stuff. And I worked there for 6 months. And I'm saying, I've got to follow my dream. I've got to at least. Some wise old man said, just give it a chance. Give something. It's not for your life. Give it 3 years. Yeah. After 3 years, say, okay, I want to go back and have 8 kids, and I want to go whatever you want. And so I knew I had to at least try this acting thing that was really in my blood, my soul, as far as a craft. And so I gave up my job at Cornhusker Paving Company.
I like the way you say that.
And got on a bus with $1,500 in my pocket and went to New York City, not knowing a soul. And that's kind of the way it started. And you asked about how I got into the Actors Studio and stuff like this.
Right.
I started, the Actors Studio has a director's unit, an actor's unit, and a playwright's unit. The director's unit was run by somebody you might have heard, Kazan, Elia Kazan. Oh, yes, I know this guy. Jeez. And the writer was Harold Klerman. Gave me one of the greatest lines of all. He said, "The beginning of creativity is theft. We steal from everybody and everything around us, whether it be the wind, whether it be our souls, whether it be our neighbors, whatever." So when I auditioned finally for the Actors Studio, Lee Strasberg knew my work. And he had seen me in 5, 7 different, he knew who I was. He knew who, yeah. And I wanted to be the first one to get into the Actors Studio with a comedy. And I said, wouldn't that be fun? Because everybody, this Actors Studio, this, and so there was a wonderful play called Love, L-U-V, by Murray Schuskell, that was so funny. It was so funny. And I did this for an audition, and I had everyone laughing. I had them laughing. And and at the end, Strasberg turned me down. Oh. And he says, "Come back with something else, something serious." So every 6 months so I come back 6 months later and I do I don't know, William Inge, or whatever it was, and I got in right away because he knew my work. But he wouldn't let me in with a comedy. And that's what I want to do. I wanted to break the tradition of the Actors Studio, the seriousness, but that the craft itself is joyous outside of
understand they have the biggest of the biggest names were in the Actors Studio.
Oh, sure.
You were surrounded by them.
For sure. We were telling a wonderful story. I did a film with Paul Newman, his first time that he directed a film called Rachel. Mm-hmm. And I played an evangelist minister that talked in tongues. And Paul liked to rehearse things. Because he's from the stage, and he liked to rehearse like a stage play. And so I was with Joanne Woodward, and she was scared to death of me. "Oh Lord, we're going to save this woman here," and I say, "Love to me," and so I had her head in my hands and stuff like this, and she was shaking. And "Lord, we're going to," and she kind of stumbled and stuff like this, and she went down, and I went with her. And as we hit under the table, she regurgitated "love," and I said, "Oh Lord, you hear this woman now? She's saying love to me." And most people that are doing this will say, "Gee, that was exciting, but we got to do it up here on the table," and stuff like this. Paul Newman was on his hands and knees with the DP saying, "Now, can we get this shot under the table like this?" And what does that say? Don't be afraid to get under the table. Mm-hmm. With your ideas, with your thoughts, with ideas, anything you come up with. Because we have something and say, "Wait a minute, that doesn't fit what I'm..." Whoa, get under the table. Loosen up a little bit. Let's see what happened, because this was real. What happened here was real. And that's what you have to be spontaneous in your craft to be able to be free to be able to do that. It was a great lesson.
Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward. Holy hell.
If we back up for a second, Terry, let me ask you something. So if you're in the Midwest and you want to chase your dreams, why go east instead of west? Because my guess is if you're in the middle, because we're all Midwesterners, so some of that stuff feels impossible, right? Going to Hollywood or going to New York. How did you decide which direction to go?
We were just talking about that off camera. Mm-hmm. To be able to, being an industrial engineer, because in the Midwest you have to be somebody, you have to be a doctor or a lawyer or something, you can't be a creative artist, an actor, So I said, if I'm going to do this craft that I love and I don't understand, I have to be with someone, what's the best teacher in the world? Lee Strasberg, the Actors Studio in New York City. And that's as simple as it is. Am I going west or am I going to go east? I'm going where Lee Strasberg is. In other words, if I'm going to do something, I wanted to do it with the best. And that's how New York Came into my existence.
And it sounds like there was maybe not even a plan B, right? It's either I'm going to New York, I'm going for Lee, and if that doesn't work, we'll figure it out later.
Figure it out later. And as I said, a wise old man said that every decision that you make, it doesn't have to be your lifetime decision. Oh, my God, I don't know. This is for my life. No. Put a time period on it, a year, 2 months. And I gave it 3 years. And I said, after 3 years, well, maybe I want to be in advertising, write commercials, stuff like that, because I'm funny. I can do it. Or maybe I want to be back an engineer, whatever it is. But give it a time limit. So that way, because there's going to be many forks in the road, as we know in life. And every time you reach that fork, you got to make that decision. But it's not forever. Give it a time period. And after that, then figure it out again.
I love that. Terry Kiser again is our guest. I want to take you back to 1968. Here's that scene you were just talking about from Paul Newman's Rachel. Rachel, by the way, was this your first film?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
Paul
start
Newman?
off with Paul
Holy
Newman.
Moly.
Yeah.
It's happening. Love that is given by God through us to one another, the greatest gift of the Spirit. Don't you feel it happening? Don't you love the Lord with all your hearts?
Yes. I love the Lord.
Would you come out in front, old man? Will you help him, please? And you, will you help her? And you, come right out here. And you, ma'am?
He's talking to you.
Go on.
And you?
And that's Joanne Woodward you're talking to right there, right? Yeah.
You mustn't be afraid.
Wow.
Are you so frightened of a hand?
No.
It's only a hand. It won't harm you, don't you know that? 5 fingers to hold with, to hold on with. Do you hold on to me? I think you want to. Be willing, please. Please allow what you're feeling.
He grabs her and lifts her up.
Let the doors open.
What do you think when you hear that?
Oh, my.
What do you think when you hear that?
It was emotional for you.
I haven't heard that for years. It's very emotional to me. It brings back such incredible memories, and gave me one of the greatest starts I could have in a career, to be with Joanne Woodward and Paul Newman, and little me. To these icons, I'm very humble right now. Yes.
Wow, what a thing to watch hearing that for the first time, Mr. Kiser. I'm so glad to be a part of that for a moment. That's really something, because you're in that moment doing something wonderfully, and also at the same time in real life realizing that your dream is beginning. It's coming true as it's happening right there.
Yes. It gave me a foundation for a craft that most people don't have, and no matter what you do in life. But to be surrounded by these icons and have the opportunity to do something like this is, I'm very humble right now. Very humble.
Wow.
It's powerful watching.
That's quite a moment. Again, Terry Kiser is our guest. Today, it's happening. CHS Field. You can actually meet Bernie himself. It's Wednesdays at Bernie's with the Power Trip Morning Show. Thanks to our friends at the St. Paul Saints. Let's hear it for the Saints.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Making
Yes,
this
sir.
happen. I can't believe
Bravo.
I made it happen. You just wait till
Bravo.
I want R2D2 in studio next week. You understand me? But thanks again. SaintsBaseball.com. SaintsBaseball.com. Go ahead, Corey.
Do you remember what was the critics' reaction when Weekend at Bernie's came out? Because ultimately, it doesn't matter, right? The movie has withstood anything in the last 35 years. But do you remember what the critical response was when it was first released?
I think it was mixed. Well, what is this all about? You know, things like this. And that's when you start giggling a little bit. You know, when all of a sudden you see a line around the block trying to get in the movie. I don't care what you said. Look what's happening here.
Yeah, right.
We're making $1. And so I think it was mixed reviews at the time and things like this, that they didn't really accept it for what it was.
Ebert and Siskel went up One down, probably.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
At that point, Andrew McCarthy was Andrew McCarthy. The Brat Pack documentary just came out. Was there any kind of tumult around the set, people trying to get close to him? Because they were bigger than life at that point.
They were. And, Andrew can get a little pissy.
You know what? I got that from the documentary. I won't lie to you. From watching the documentary, I got that.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that aside, I mean, he was the star. We John and I were just, there at a time like that. But then all of a sudden, Andrew said, "Wait a minute, I gotta keep up with these guys." Wow. Doing the things like this. And I think one of the bonding things that we had, we all like golf. Play golf, amateur golfy. But we were always all in the same scenes. Every scene in the movie we were in.
Yeah.
And so the only time we could play golf was when it rained. And so when it rained, we said, let's go to the golf course. And so we always played in the rain. We played golf in the rain because that's when we could play. And that was a bonding thing. You can imagine how that gets somebody together like that. No, I tip my hat. We're all meeting in October in Buffalo, New York or something like this for the anniversary. The three of us in a Comic-Con, which is going to be quite alive. That's going to be quiet. That's going to be That's going to be big.
Well,
Buffalo, New York, I think in October sometime that the three of us will be together again, which will be fun.
Meeting the Power Trip fans today is going to be a good warm-up to that because they're kind of nuts. I'm not going to lie. So you need to be ready for that.
At 84, what keeps you going when you get up in the morning? How do you motivate yourself? You look great. I mean, I'm in awe.
Yeah, you're healthier than I am.
You really are terrific.
Thank you. It's so strange that I'm working more now than I ever have. In other words, I have 4 films coming out.
What?
Yes. It's totally amazing to me that I'm working all the time. We were just talking this on the way over here and stuff. I don't know how that happens. A big film that I think is going to come out is a Western that I did called A Gunfighter's Deal. That I play a part that I've never played in my life. That's, I think, one of the. It reminds me of Rachel, kind of. In other words, an incredible, iconic part of playing the devil.
Whoa!
That I can make you the best gunfighter that ever lived. But you have to give me your soul first.
Deal.
Done deal. Yeah.
Wow, you're good at this. Looking through your list of credits, I have to tell you, I was born in 1970, okay? So looking through your television credits, these single episodes where you appeared in different shows, I watched every one of the shows. Every show I ever loved, you were in. So if you don't mind, I want to run through a couple that were particularly my favorites, and just if you have a memory that pops in your mind, I'd love it if you don't mind. Sure. Well, first of all, I have to say, I loved The Bionic Woman. I was 6 years old the first time I saw it.
Of course
I loved
you did.
it. And you were in an episode of The Bionic Woman. What do you remember of that?
I remember The Bionic Woman, but to get off The Bionic Woman to The Bionic Man, who I was best man at his wedding.
What?
In other words, Lee Majors and I are dear friends today. And I always kid him because he's, like 7 months older than I am. And I said, I call him the old man. But he kind of guided me through back then for The Bionic Woman. And it was my first time that when I came from New York, when my first guest star was on his show, the $6 Million Man. And I played this part that I was dying.
Oh, imagine that.
And I was dying for the balcony in New York. And Lee Strasberg, Major went up to the director and said, this is a fine young actor. He's a New York actor that's won awards in New York and stuff like this. But he's playing he doesn't know the camera is right here. He's playing for the balcony. I'm dying for the balcony. And it was an incredible lesson to realize that when you're on film, all of a sudden, you don't have to do nothing. And I think that's what you learn when with that camera and stuff like this. The less you do, the more effective it is. And so the Bionic Woman, the Bionic Man all ties in together, and Lee is, kind of guided me because he was a big star then, and I was just coming to L.A. for the first time.
And you were on his show, The Fall Guy, in 1982, and of course, how cool was it to have him at the very end of the movie, The Fall Guy, here when it just came out earlier this summer?
He was very happy about that. He was excited about that. We're excited for each other, and he's always been a big fan of mine. Always. He says, Terry, you can lift up a fork and make it funny. How do you do that? And I said, Lee, I don't know. I just, it's fun, isn't it? Yes, it is fun. It is fun like this. So we've been dear friends. And so tie-in Bionic Woman, Bionic Man, a great relationship with Lee Majors.
Talking about funny people, you were kind of a recurring character, if I'm right, on Three's Company. Am I right about that?
Oh, my, yes.
Yeah, okay. So Jack Tripper, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, how much did you love John Ritter, and was he everything I hoped that he was?
To answer your question, yes. He was a class act. There was no showbiz in him whatsoever. He loved the craft. And he and I became good friends because of that. Mm. And I mean, they cast me in that show as a head of the mafia. Now, talk about against. I mean, you get you get a guy. Yeah, in other words, but they cast for the craft. In other words, they knew comedy, that I knew comedy, and so they went against the physical character of the thing and gave this part to me. And that's when John and I became friends like this. And he was strictly a class act that loved acting and didn't care about showbiz. A beautiful man.
You were also on All the Family. You had an episode. My God. We're looking at these credits. We're going, you're talking about Paul Newman. Now we're talking about Carol O'Connor. And
I'll tell you a funny story about that one. Obviously, when I guest starred on the thing, it was a hit, and so everybody in the parking lot had a Mercedes, had a BMW, and things like this. I parked way on the other side of the thing in my Volkswagen Bug. So I went and I sat around this table of 12, 15 people, the cast and the producer and Norman Lear and everybody else. And everybody around that table were multimillionaires at the time.
Sheesh.
Except me. And the beauty of those people is I was one of them. I was right. They accepted me right now, now as a craftsman. And but I remember that parking on the other side. Yes, true story. True story.
One of the greats of anything of all time, Carol Burnett.
Oh my!
On Carol and Company, you were a part of the cast. What was it like to work with freaking Carol Burnett?
What an honor. She taught me one of the great lessons of life and craft. One time we were, I said, well, the scene, I don't know, maybe I should have an accent in the scene or something like this, or a limp, or maybe, shorter shorts, or stand up. And I said, what? Stand up. So I stood up. And she says, now do it. Come on, do it. In other words, physicalize it. Stop the chatter upstairs and do something, because something will come out of that. You grab somebody like this and all of a sudden, I like that. Something will happen.
You just kissed me.
Something.
Never wash your arm again.
I can't believe this happened.
But what happens is it stops the chatter. You got to stop the chatter and physicalize it and do something and have the confidence that something will happen, and something will happen. One of the great lessons of acting that Carol Burnett, an iconic, one of the greatest times of my life.
I think of you as a young man's Dick Van Dyke almost right now.
Oh, mine.
It's really something. Wow.
That's a nice compliment.
Well, it is. You are that person.
Wow.
Yeah, Night Court, Golden Girls, Knight Rider, Murder, She Wrote. These are all, like Hawk was saying, iconic 80s shows. You were on all of them.
Yeah. I think the reason that I was so fortunate is, again, we go back to the actor's studio, trying to get in with a comedy and stuff like this, of seeing that comedy is the actor's studio. It's the craft itself. It doesn't have to be serious. It doesn't have to be funny. It's the craft. And but I could do serious stuff and I could do funny stuff. So I worked twice as much as anybody else because I could do both. A lot of people can just be serious. A lot of people can just do comedy. But I had the fortune of being able to do both. So that's why I worked all the time. Very fortunate.
Terry Kiser again is our guest. I keep saying it because I want people to know today's the day. SaintsBaseball.com. Get your tickets. It's Wednesdays with Bernie. That is him. That's Bernie. That's him right there. He's going to be down there. The meet and greet 11:30 to 12:30 games at 1. Lots going on today. It's going to be a beautiful, wonderful day at CHS Field. Now I have to ask you, I've been waiting to ask you this question because not only did you do an episode of his television show, but you also were in a movie with him. Talk to me about Chuck freaking Norris. You're on Walker, Texas Ranger. I can't even imagine what it would be like to stand in that guy's shadow.
He was such a nice guy, and again, he's got such a giggle out of me because I could make things funny. He didn't know how that happened. He didn't understand why stuff I did was funny and things like this. And I remember one time because we'd be shooting and stuff like this, and my characters and stuff like this, the dialogue would stop from the script, but I'd keep talking. In other words, because I knew the character. I knew what the character, and I just kept talking and things like this. And one time he would say, "That is so funny," and he went, and he flipped me upside down on the set and was over me, and he said, "You are really funny, Terry. You are really funny." And I'm going, "Okay, take it easy, Chuck. Take it easy." He was a pleasure to work with. His brother Aaron produced and directed the things like this. But yeah, I did like 3 movies with him and a lot of episodes of Walker, Texas Ranger and stuff like that. Always fun to be on the set. And you go on the set and you look around and you say, "Well, there's 8 Chuck Norrises here." Huh. You know, because he had stunt guys. A stunt guy for motorcycles, a stunt guy for big trucks, a stunt guy for karate. In other words, and they were all dressed like Chuck. So you walk on the set and you look around and say, "There's 8 Chuck Norrises here."
Meanwhile, your head is getting dragged behind your water ski. So what other scenes in Weekend at Bernie's were actually you then? Most of them? Like when you washed up on the beach, was that your actual body, or was that a dummy?
No, that was me.
What? Jeez, are you kidding me? My mind is blown. I just assumed all of those were dummies.
Because there's nobody that could double my face. See? Anytime you get like the thing on the behind the boat pulling the thing like that. Yeah. No, that wasn't me because they didn't need me. In other words, but there was nobody else that had the Bernie face.
Anytime there was a face, it was you.
It had to be me. That's why it got a little out of whack a little bit and had to get straightened out.
So you got buried by that kid in the sand. That was your actual body.
Oh my goodness!
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
God. Yeah. That's a great bit.
That's
so good.
Here's an odd question for you. Rosie, to your left there, was close to Leslie Nielsen and closer to Pat Proft, who was obviously
mentioned Pat.
Yeah, we're talking. Obviously, they have talking about the Naked Gun and redoing films like that. How would you feel if they redid Weekend at Bernie's with new actors?
Do you want to know something? I wrote a Weekend at Bernie's 3.
Really?
Called Bernie Does Extreme Sports. and it was funny. In other words, it wasn't a stick. It was funny. I had a writer that worked on Johnny Carson, and I had a person that was a co-producer in the Carol Burnett thing, but he was a concert pianist. So he had great structure of craft of what it was. And so the 3 of us wrote this thing, and Bernie Does Extreme Sports, and it was funny. It was so funny how this worked and stuff like this. And MGM would not give us the rights to the thing. They said, "Well, no, because it's in our library and we can't, and you don't want Andrew McCarthy and Andrew." And I said, "Well, because we're at a different age now. The things are going." But and they wouldn't give us the rights, and it was a good script. So yes, I've thought about it. Yeah.
They ripped us off. The world is lesser because of that.
But again, hard to recapture that magic. We talked about it earlier, but they're redoing Beetlejuice. It comes out in a couple of months, right? And a lot of us were nervous they were going to CGI it and make it too modern, but Tim Burton's like, no, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it like we did it the first time. Yes. I would feel the same way if they ever did a Weekend at Bernie's again. How do you find that? Again, how do you thread that needle? I don't know. I don't know if it would work. But maybe, again,
it would work.
You're screwed. With somebody else, though, to Chris's point, with somebody else or with you?
I would do it. Yeah. Because Bernie is ageless. Yeah. You know what he does. There's no age.
Well, he's dead.
He's dead.
The aging has stopped. Well, listen. I think I speak for everybody here. This has been quite the honor for us, and I know Corey, the man to your right there, in the black cap there.
I've seen it a million times. I love that movie.
He was more excited than I've ever seen him.
Fantastic film.
Your
Terry,
words
of
wisdom are great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Excited to see you again in a couple hours at CHS Field.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
Yeah,
that
was wonderful.
This
was cool. All right, so CHS Field today. What is it? A 1 o'clock game?
1 o'clock game.
But
yep.
right, the
11:30 to 12:30 meet and greet.
Meet and greet 11:30 to 12:30 down there with Terry Kiser in the Power Trip Morning Show. We're back tomorrow, 5:30 to 9. 9.